Today's story was written by Reddit user, the Do-It-All Badger. "O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. Our crew has weathered every storm, the prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting. Our fallow eyes keep a steady keel, our vessel grim and daring. Sir, tops on the horn. You're not going to believe this." I tilt my head backward at an angle that makes most of my squad cringe. My kind's neck make those funny Terran owl birds look like amateurs for flexibility, so it's always good for a quick laugh. But Captain Adamako is never put off by that. He simply turns his gaze down to me from his coffee tin, looking expectantly, wordlessly informing me to continue. The skinnies are on the move, and if Intel hasn't dropped the ball, I'm cut off briefly by snickering and many derisive comments made regarding Intel. None of these crude, uncouth, and sometimes even moderately racist jokes are unfair. If I had a water token for every time they fucked up, I could drink Earth. If they're right, they've got the big giant head in tow. That shuts everyone up rapidly. The captain's eyes widen so very slightly, and he takes a big gulp of coffee. "Then why isn't half of their army down here trying to turn our collective arseholes into a series of novelty probing experiments?" Head's been seen hanging around a single specific officer for 3 local zone days now. Intel thinks it might be a favoured relative, or maybe an heir? 16 of SIGINT's best brainjacks got fried just today. Local zone days being equal to around 3 weeks of normal time, that's a lot of dead psychics on our side in such a short time. They're trying to keep its presence quiet, but their psi shields are running like a raped ape. My captain nods at me, eyes slowly narrowing, a lot like the way mine do. It's a very attractive quality in humans, the way their eyes are as predatory as my people's are. A smile forms on his face. He already has a plan. This puts a smile on my face too. "It would be rude if we didn't give it a proper jarhead welcome. Don't you agree, Zaka?" was all he said. All he needed to say. "O Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung. For you the bugle trills. For you bouquets and ribboned wreaths. For you, the shores are crowding. For you they call, the swaying mass, their eager faces turning." I woke up in a ditch, deaf and unable to make out sounds. My captain's hands wrapped around my collar, dragging me away from the blast zone he had just tackled me away from. A moment later, I'd be a smear among the rest of my platoon. Horror takes my face as I realise where we are, and how harsh the fight has been. Blearily, I look up, and my captain gives me a few vigorous shakes. My eyes focus, my hearing begins to come back. "Corporal," I finally hear him scream. "We're hosed if we don't get out of here. Corporal, we need to pull out. Do you copy?" I manage to nod a few times, my head rolling like a marionette's. He drags me to my feet and begins barking orders at me, directing me to which troops go where and how we're going to pull this off, at least how he wants us to pull this off, before we feel the air pressure change. The skinnies brought out a really big gun. The biggest non-starship mounted superguns they can bring to bear. Well, that seemed fair. We did just kill their General Emperor Admiral Super Leader guy, and popped his head like a ripe watermelon between a thick-muscled girl's thighs. The captain screams at me to go, and shoves me so hard that I fly back into the arms of a pair of privates and a specialist. I realise I'm the only NCO left, watching in mute horror as the captain prepares to sacrifice himself for us. He is the only one who can, because only ranking officers get the really good toys. His body is wreathed in light, and the still functional armor plates from our fallen began flying around him. We don't have a lot of psychics like the skinnies do, but any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and the control unit plugged into his brain can be seen crackling with lightning as it creates a mag-sealed shield out of our own fallen around him. I scream for him as my fellow soldiers drag me away. "We can get away without such a sacrifice. Please, Captain, please!" I try to scream. "Listen to me, Captain! Oh, Captain!" But he doesn't hear me, or doesn't acknowledge, and takes the full force of the blast, just as I'm being forcibly loaded into the evac skimmer. My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm. He has no pulse nor will. Our ship is anchored safe and sound, our mission closed and done. From fearful trip the victor's ship comes in with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread walk the deck whereupon my captain lies, fallen, cold and dead. I brought the folded flag back to his home when we returned to port. I was told I didn't have to, and I told the sergeant he was free to eat shit and die forgotten if he thought I wouldn't be the one handling it. I saluted my captain's handsome spouse and looked away in shame when I saw their children beginning to crowd. I could not bear to look them in the face, not me, not their beloved auntie who always came with treats and souvenirs. I could only fall to my knees and bury my face at the doormat, begging their forgiveness, and they didn't give it. They didn't because it wasn't my fault, and we became a giant pile of weeping bodies for old gods know how many hours. Surely 'tis but some awful dream that you have fallen cold and dead. The funeral was perfect in every way. We could accept no less. Only a handful of us were left, and though we knew the protocols of human funeral rites, we could not help but contribute to it in our own culturally unique fashions. Jizan played a mournful dirge on a flute made of his own shed and broken bones. Kauzi and Korzil insisted on building the casket themselves, decorating it with the help of the captain's children so he would always feel them nearby. Nitoms and her brother snapped off 3 of their own fangs and wreathed them around his head before the casket was closed, even convincing his spouse to do the same. I dare say he didn't enjoy the experience, but he didn't gripe once. And well, my people are deeply emotional, and I insisted, demanded, that every single solitary aspect of his burial garb be absolutely perfect. The funeral techs wanted to cut his uniform to fit his rigid corpse in it, and I'm only slightly ashamed to admit I very nearly murdered one of those poor fools for such an offence. The mere suggestion had me frothing at the mouth. I shattered his arm so they could fit it properly instead. Then, when the viewing came, I wept and roared and broke my fist on the floor, raging against the injustice of it all. None of us really moved on just yet, but at least the war is over, and we have a home again, with his family. His beloved insisted we stay with them, knowing that the enemy had taken our homes away already, and that we had nowhere else to go, and the children absolutely refused to acknowledge any of our excuses, whether they were religious or cultural or anything else, for why we could not accept such offer. I can live with that, which is good, since I don't seem to have a choice in the matter.